While I am waiting for a little audience to build, I am going to go turn this air conditioner down some. Okay, I'm back. So, I'm going to share this into my groups. Please excuse me while I do this. When I'm live, it's important that I get as many people on as I possibly can when I'm live. So, I'm going to share this into the keto groups, and I'm going to share this. Hey, what's going on? What's going on? Sharing it to my personal page, and I'm going to share it to the groups that I run. Share it to my business page. It's a business page, but it's not really a business for me. I don't know why they call it a business page, but that's what it is. Share it to our private group. And then I'm going to share it with one person in particular that kind of enticed some of this to happen. Okay, so I've got it shared to a couple different platforms, and I shared it to the person that kind of enticed this video to happen tonight. Is keto for everyone? The answer is no, it's not. And here's the reason why. Here's a couple different reasons why, and I'm going to listen to you guys. We know it. We know people can do keto. We know people can follow the lifestyle and stuff like that. So I haven't even started yet, so it's going to be difficult to roll if I pay attention to the messages, because it's going to distract me. This here, to answer your question based on the title, yes, I think the ketogenic diet is for everyone. Everyone can go into ketosis, and carbohydrates are not required, whereas amino acids and fats are essential. Here's where I'm going to break this down, and I know you can only type so much at one time. You are correct in the general aspect, but not in the entirety of, if you wanted to dig down to the nitty-gritty, this would not be true. The reason this would not be true is because there are diabetics that have sugar problems, and if a diabetic cannot get their sugar under control with keto in the beginning, and their sugar levels stay high, which I'm sure you already know this, and their ketones are high, this induces a state of ketoacidosis. It's very rare that this happens, because most type 2 diabetics that start to follow a ketogenic diet, it's very low glycemic. It actually helps them control their blood sugar and stuff. And maybe doing bouts or forms of it from time to time, just in little 1 week or 2 week increments, to see if it's for them, to see if their body's going to respond well to it, would be okay. The reason I'm getting into it as far as I possibly can is because I was thrown a question, or somebody made a statement, and I corrected them. And I said, absolutely, keto can be done by anybody, but there are some circumstances where keto is not for everybody. If you're a real severe diabetic and you've got severe metabolic conditions, limiting carbohydrates would benefit you greatly. being in ketosis while you're trying to do better and heal your metabolism might not be the best idea for you up front. You might go from 250 grams of carbs per day that the American Diabetes Association recommends, which is fine for nobody. It's the most ridiculous recommendation I've ever seen in my life. So I have no idea where they get their standards. I don't know what type of test or epidemiology or epididliology, as Bart Kay says, our nutritional science watchdog. It's nonsense. How are you supposed to heal a destroyed metabolic system on 250 grams of carbohydrates per day? It's not going to happen. And then people say, well, turn to a vegan diet. Well, you're still inducing fructose, carbohydrates, simple sugars, complex sugars, all these other things that can still hinder you and keep you in a state longer, if not make it worse. And I know there's Dr. McDougall and all these other people out there that the vegans like to watch, but they're only going to tell you exactly what you want to hear. If you have a real severe diabetic, it's probably not advisable for them to go straight onto a ketogenic diet before stepping themselves down. So if I had a diabetic that had an A1C of 10.5, would I tell them, if somebody came to me and said, hey, I'm a type 2 diabetic, I want to start keto, can I do it now? I'm going to say no. You cannot. And here's the reason why. I want you to slowly come down from where you're at. I know some people are an all's in kind of, but I'm not a doctor. And I can't help that person and control that person. I don't want to be liable for something that happens to that person. And I don't know how to help them any other way outside of being careful. Let's take you down to 150, and then 100, and then 75, and then 50 grams of carbohydrates. Then let's see if we can get you down to that total 20, total 30 per day, not this net junk that all these people continue to do. When I say junk, that's my opinion. Some people, they do great on 50 grams net or 30 grams net, which could equate to 60 or 70 total, just depending on the circumstances. I don't think a ketogenic diet is good for a really severe diabetic right out the gate. I think you start reducing the things that you eat, and you might even find that by reducing the things that you eat, if you get low enough in your carbohydrate intake and start eating more real whole foods and not highly processed foods, that you may not even need a ketogenic diet. You might find that you thrive off of something just because you missed something along the way. I'm trying to stay on track here. In that situation, low carb and BHB could be helpful from what I have read. I mean, sure, if you want to supplement beta hydroxybutyrate, then do that. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's necessary to take supplements when you're first starting out if you don't necessarily need to. It's not like you can't retain potassium and sodium and things like this. You don't need another alternate fuel stuck in there while you're trying to come down from a high carb diet as it is, and you're trying to clean it up. I mean, that's my opinion. Why take any kind of ketone and throw it into the mixture if you're already a diabetic and you're trying to reduce the amount of carbs that you have? Just slowly do it and see where you're at. And as you get used to it and you start to feel better, keep reducing it. Keep bringing your carbs down. And then you might find that you're in a full-blown ketotic state with low blood sugar and high ketones, or, nutritional ketosis. I don't see the point in adding supplements in when it's not necessary. And I've always been that way. I'm always going to be that way. I don't believe in any of that stuff. I've never believed in that stuff, and I'm not going to really shift from that. I know there's a big market out there for it, but it's not with me. And everybody can believe what they want. If you guys don't know what BHB is some people call it the primary ketone, but it's actually not. It's a secondary ketone. There's 3 ketones that are made whenever you're in ketosis. There's acetoacetate, acetone, and beta hydroxybutyrate. Acetoacetate is actually your main ketone. That's when the liver starts doing its thing, when you start breaking down fat and actually turning it into fuel. Acetoacetate is the main ketone. Then your body goes through a chemical process or a shift and change, and it makes beta hydroxybutyrate out of acetoacetate. Acetone is a ketone that can be measured through the breath. It's expelled. Acetoacetate is the ketone that gets expelled through your urine. And beta hydroxybutyrate is a derivative of acetoacetate. After your body starts to learn to produce ketones, it actually starts to break down the acetoacetate that you're urinating, you can check with the little pee strips. They're okay. They're not super accurate, but they're okay. There's a lot of false positives, false negatives, positive now, whatever they call them. There's a lot of different ways that you can read negative that you're in ketosis, but actually not be in ketosis. If you're pregnant, there's certain different types of women hormonal issues that can play a factor in what shows up on that strip. If you're dehydrated, so some people say it's not very accurate, but it actually is a tool. Dr. Eric Westman says if you're a new person and you're just starting on a ketogenic diet and you want to check your ketones and you pee on the strips, it could show what level you're in, but it is not highly accurate. The best way to check what level of ketosis you're in is by using an actual blood meter, by pricking your finger, something of that nature. They do have the expensive ketonics breath meter that reads acetone in the breath, but again, I don't really believe in any of that. It's not very accurate. They have a lot of different breath meters out there that are not very accurate. The best way to check is through your blood, and your byproduct of acetoacetate is beta hydroxybutyrate. It's the fuel, it's the main ketone that your body can use the most readily. Blood-brain barrier crossing, it's the fuel for your body when you're in ketosis. That's the main fuel. But a lot of people call it the primary ketone, and it's not. The primary ketone is actually acetoacetate. But we don't talk about it that way because it's too hard to explain it to everybody as that's the case. Well, this video, we're going to try to make it as informative as possible. I get that. Again, I'm trying to stay on point here and roll with this, but the reason I say that is because BHB is a signaling molecule reducing carbs, and BHB can help. I mean, there is maybe a couple doctors that say that, but there's also a bunch of other doctors that say that's not necessary. There is some science that may say that, but there's more science that says that's not necessary. Some people can use BHB supplements and they get great results from it. There's a lot of low quality, low value BHB supplements out there that absolutely do nothing. I've taken the high quality stuff and I've taken the low quality stuff. It does not raise my ketones. Another thing to take into effect is if you're taking BHB and stuff like that and you're showing extremely high ketone levels in your blood, what's going on? Is that a good thing to show 2.0 millimolar, 2.5 millimolar? Sure, if you're not trying to induce it purposely, or you're not on an extremely long fasted run and all of a sudden they skyrocket, sure, there's nothing wrong with that. Are you trying to induce this high level of BHB in the blood? Because if you're measuring BHB in the blood, BHB in the blood is BHB that's not being used. That's fuel that's circulating, just like sugar. When you test your sugar levels, and people freak out when they're diabetic and they're extremely high, 160, 170, 200, 220, 300. Oh my God, I got to get my sugar down. I was feeling off. Well, it's the same way with your ketones. Yeah, you have a surplus of ketones available, but that doesn't mean that's necessarily a good thing. Most people feel the best whenever they're actually at that like 0.9 to 1.5 area, maybe up to 2.0. But that 1.5 to like 1.0, 0.9 millimolar is like a pretty great nutritional standard for where most people want to achieve a good solid state of ketosis. When people have extremely high numbers and stuff when they're fasting and stuff, that's fuel that's not being used, and that's okay. But if you're trying to purposely induce it by taking ketone supplements, like I ask people all the time, this is kind of going somewhere where I didn't want it to go. This is why I don't like getting off track when I do these things. I try to start it and stay regimented, but I get pulled off another way. Whenever you have, when you already have 1.0, 1.5 millimolar ketones, and you're trying to take a BHB supplement on top of that, and you don't see an increase and nothing changes, quit taking it. Why are you taking it to begin with? There's no reason to supplement. A lot of people say, well, I'm just trying to get some extra fuel or something before I go to the gym, or just keep me going throughout the day. You're not really keeping yourself going. It's a placebo effect. You already have so many ketones available in the blood, and now you're drinking ketones on top of it you're not going to use. There's no reason to do it. Your body already makes things endogenously, and you're taking exogenous supplements. So if you're already in an endogenous form of ketosis and you're showing plenty of ketones in the blood, there's no reason to take more. Your body's already doing it naturally. This is where people get confused and mixed up, and they read about all these studies and stuff that say BHB does this and BHB does that. Not if you're already making it. You're already doing that. There's no reason to be supplementing it. That's just the God's honest truth. It is what it is. So to get back on topic of, is it for everybody? No, it's not. I don't think it is. If you're a person that can't get past the food addiction, if you're a person that can't hunker down for 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks and try to eat the same type of stuff over and over again until you start getting some real good results, instead of going right towards the sweets and the keto food products and stuff, that's what I do. I'm just trying to make it as easy as I possibly can on explaining things for people. If you're a person if you cannot be focused on doing the same type of thing for a couple months when you first start a ketogenic diet, it's probably not going to be best for you to start. The reason is you need to have that mindset to where you're ready to roll. If you're not ready to roll and get into it, and you just kind of, excuse my French, pussyfoot around with it from time to time, and you want to dip your toe in the water a little bit and get out, and then dip your toe in the water a little bit and get out, and then dip your toe in the water a little bit and get out, you're not going to do yourself any service by doing that. When you start a ketogenic diet, if you're not ready to actually put your mind to it and do it, and actually do some good research, and don't go to everybody to do it for you, actually try to focus on doing some good research, and then ask the questions when you can't find the answers. That makes you retain that stuff so much more. I had somebody message me today, and they said, my friend had a heart attack, and my friend got sick and everything else from this. I'll read the message to you. And it was because of the ketogenic diet. This lady, she says, well, I'm really glad to hear you know what you're doing. I did try it for a bit, but stopped when one of my friends died after doing it, and another ended up with kidney disease after doing it. My friend who had a heart attack was overweight for many years before he lost the weight, so it may not have been related, but I had heard heart attacks happen sometimes when people do keto. One article I read said people's organs function better and are able to clean the body better, rid of salt and toxins, so they need to increase their salt. While another just said if people exercise and do not have enough potassium or salt, it can cause them to have a heart attack. My friend who did keto for about a year and began having kidney problems, her doctor said she probably would have had it regardless, but keto diet may have sped it up. So I don't promote it, but I don't knock it either. I know it works for weight loss, but I also know it could be dangerous, just like anything else. For people who do not know what they're doing, it's good to hear you help people safely. Here's how I responded to that. There is no documentation ever that keto had led to a death. Unless they are diabetic and didn't know it and entered a state of ketosis with super high sugar levels, inducing a state of ketosis, and that's where individuals linking up with the doctor and research comes into play. There was a situation where a girl ended up in a hospital due to not researching things and living off of fat bombs and calling it keto. Literally, this happened beginning of last year or the year before. I ran across a video. She's an African American girl, very pretty, she was losing weight. She's actually starting to become very attractive. And I seen a video that the comments was turned off on. And I was watching the video, and the girl said, well, I thought that I could just live off fat bombs. I thought literally that I could just make all these different kinds of fat bombs and just live off of them and never eat regular food. And I ended up in the hospital. What I said was there was a situation where a girl ended up in the hospital due to not researching things and living off fat bombs and calling it keto. That is not keto. Just because you're in a state of ketosis does not mean that you're eating keto. There's a metabolic process of being in ketosis. There's a form of keto that's dangerous called ketoacidosis, which is high sugar levels and high ketones, which that's not what we achieve. We try to achieve low sugar levels and somewhat substantial ketones, or no ketones at all, but just stable sugar levels. Like if you're on carnivore, a lot of carnivores don't produce very high ketones, but their sugar levels are really low and they feel phenomenal, and they've rid themselves of all the autoimmune causing things. They really free up their body from any kind of anti-nutrients and stuff that may come from vegetables and things like that that their digestive tract can't handle. Everybody's not the same, so there are different forms of doing this for everybody. Every single person that I've ever seen talk about keto has always encouraged people to really heavily stay up on the electrolytes when you first start, so your potassium and your sodium stays up to par. But what do people do? They neglect it and they don't do what they're supposed to do. And then they blame it on the diet, and that's not the case. It's an individual's own responsibility to do the research and really be open to what they should be doing, and stop following idiots on YouTube that make excuses for treats and keto fake foods all the time, and start following real people that's going to give them real advice, educated advice, and not let them fall by the wayside when they do ask for advice. These are things and principles that should be held no matter what. If you're following Samantha Does Keto, and every day she's dumping 6 ingredients in fat bomb coffee and stuff every morning, and keto this and keto brownies and keto cookies and keto ice cream, that's not a person that I would be following. That's not a person that's going to be giving me good advice. If you can look back 5 years and see that they were doing some kind of keto back then and nothing's changed between then and now, it's probably time for you to move on to somebody that seems a little bit more educated in the matter. But people don't do that. Those YouTube channels blow up because that's what people want. People are weak. People want to see the junk. People want to see, can I be on a diet and still have the same junk that I had before? The answer to that is no, you can't. If your mindset is, I need to continue doing the same thing that I did before, except I'm just going to find a different way to do it, you can do that on keto, and you're probably going to get some decent results by eating a dirty style. The sweets and treats and sugar-free this and sugar-free that, sure, it's going to help you a little bit. Are you actually going to heal your medical condition that you're after? Probably not. Your digestive tract is probably still going to be a wreck. Your mental state is probably still going to be a wreck. The sensation of feeling and smelling and the way you sleep and how you act and activity and stuff in general is going to be a wreck. The one thing that you may find is you have a little bit more energy because you have less adipose tissue on the body, and you're starting to lose fat, which frees up a lot of your blood supply, so blood can actually get to different parts of your body better. So you might get a little bit of energy, but you're still going to feel like crap. You're still going to have so many different sensations that haven't enhanced and stuff like that. But there's a lot of things that people don't realize. When you first start a ketogenic diet, if you're not okay with taking electrolyte supplements, keeping up on your sodium, potassium, whatever it may be, making sure you're eating enough in the beginning to sustain good, solid sodium and potassium levels, and actually being conscious of your health and saying, I'm going to put forth some effort in doing this. If you're the type of person that comes along and says, I just want you to tell me what to do, you probably need to go to one of those programs where you can honestly pay for somebody to tell you that. There are plenty of people that are good for that. You know, there are different doctors on social media that you're going to pay big money for that will tell you exactly what to eat, but you're going to pay big money for that. If you're a person that doesn't have that type of money and you're really serious about your health, you need to actually muster it up, grab the bull by the horns and say, look, I need to research this stuff. I need to figure out exactly what I need to be doing. If you're the type of person that cannot do that stuff, you don't have the money to pay big bucks for somebody to write some program for you, this is probably not going to be for you. You can jump on some group somewhere, free group on Facebook. You know, we have our own group where everybody talks and you could ask for advice and stuff, but it's still not going to be the same as you actually hunkering down and saying, you know what, I'm going to go to healthline.com and I'm going to actually see what they say. I'm going to go to Dr. So-and-so, Dr. Boz, Dr. Ron Rosedale, and I'm going to go see what these people are saying. I'm going to go follow Dr. Eric Westman, and I'm going to actually see what they recommend I do and actually follow what they say to the T. You're probably going to get some good results because you're doing the research. You're actually looking into it. You're watching the videos. You're actually putting forth the effort to make something of your situation. But if you're the average Joe Schmo that comes along that says, I'm just going to try it for a couple weeks and see what happens, you've already failed. Your mindset is short-term and not long-term. If you have this mindset that you're going to follow this metabolic diet that shifts you into ketosis and out of ketosis and think that you can just do this as many times as you want, probably not a great idea. I know some people that say, well, 4 years ago, I lost 100 pounds on keto and I was great. And I kept it off until I had some kind of like crisis happen in my life and then it all fell apart. And I went back to it, and now it's just not the same anymore. I can't do it. I can't stay in it. Well, first of all, you're probably not trying as hard as you did before when you were writing things down, when you were keeping a log of what made you feel good, what made you feel bad. You were measuring your sodium every single day. You were tracking your potassium and stuff that you just automatically assumed that because you did it before, you can do it again. You automatically assume that because you can have a little whiskey from time to time on a ketogenic diet, that's something that you can have often because it's not going to mess with your health. I had a lady do that. She was doing great, but then all of a sudden she came to a stop. And she said, I don't know what's going on. Um, I'm not losing weight anymore. I'm not sleeping good. I don't feel good. I don't know what the deal is. And I said, well, tell me what you're doing. And she would tell me the food that she was eating. She said, I went to intermittent fasting. So at lunchtime, I have like a chicken salad, extra chicken skin, and I take an olive oil. I make it home with some vinaigrette and pepper and stuff, just like I recommended she do. Chop up some eggs in there, and I just have a really good, nice, big salad for lunch, and I fill up on that. I have some mineral water with some salt and everything, and I just feel great. Dinner time, I'll have, proportionate little piece of steak and maybe some broccoli and cauliflower and stuff with cheese on it, real cheese, of course. And she said, I just can't lose. I said, there's something you're not doing here because everything that you're telling me you're doing, you're eating good, you're eating healthy, your macros look like they're pretty close to being right. I mean, they don't have to be perfect. Your carbs are low. What could be the problem here? And at the end of our conversation, she said, oh, I'm just so stressed. I think I'm going to have a shot of whiskey before I go to bed. And I said, wait a second. What's going on in your life right now outside of the keto diet? Are you fighting with your loved one? And she said, well, me and my boyfriend, we're going through a rough time right now. And there's a lot of stuff on my mind and stuff. And my hormones have been a wreck and everything else. And I'm thinking to myself, what are you doing whenever you get into arguments and stuff with him when your hormones are in a wreck? And she said, I like to relax at the end of the night. I'll have, a shot or two of whiskey and I'll go to bed. And I said, how often do you do this? And she said, well, probably 3 or 4 days a week. I said, you cannot do that, man. You cannot do that. That's not something that's okay. You started this diet. Yeah, you're drinking something that doesn't have sugar and stuff in it, but you're going to wreck your system. Your body's got to burn through all that alcohol and stuff before it even gets back to thinking anything about ketones, and you're back on your health journey. And then you just turn around a day or two later and you negate it and you do the same thing over again. It's not going to freaking work. And she said, oh, well, how about, twice a week? And I said, no, not even twice a week. Do it on a Friday or Saturday night and give yourself all week to recover from that. And you're still probably not going to be happy with yourself. But I said, at least try 1 day a week. Why do you need to do it multiple days a week? If this guy's causing that much of a problem in your life, get rid of him. Be done with it. Ain't nobody got time for that. Be done with it. So she said, all right. I mean, obviously I'm doing something wrong here. And if you think that's it, then that's what I'll try. And I said, that's absolutely what's wrong with you. That is what's wrong with you right now. Well, she quit and she went to maybe having a drink, 2, 3 drinks on a Friday, Saturday. And all of a sudden things started changing for her. She lost 2 pounds the first week. And then she went back to 4 pounds. And then the third, fourth week, she had lost like 11, 12, 13 pounds that month. I don't even remember what it was. And I said, see, if you follow the process and you do what you're supposed to do, something so small as a shot or two of whiskey, a couple days a week, 3 or 4 days a week, whatever it is, can stop your process. When you start this, and I'm not saying this is the case for everybody. Some people can probably get away with that. Most people cannot get away with that. If you're trying to start a regimen, a metabolic process diet, such as a ketogenic diet, and you're not in it to win it, there's no, I'll do it for a week and see what happens. I see people all the time that say, well, I did keto for 2 weeks and I didn't lose any weight. I did keto for, a month and I didn't lose any weight. It doesn't happen that way. There's sometimes people don't lose weight for 4 or 5 months. One of my admin on my group, Monica, I remember talking to her whenever she first started adminning my group, and she does a phenomenal job with people. She says, I'm going to stay at it. I'm doing everything correctly. I'm going to stay at it. I'm fasting. I'm doing the intermittent fasting stuff. I'm eating enough. She didn't lose weight for months and months. And then finally, it just all started falling off. And she is a hot mama right now. It took her a while. There's a lot of other healing that had to be done in the process of getting there. There was a lot of stuff that had to be fixed that wasn't just going to start happening overnight. And it took her that long. And then once she got there, she just started losing the weight. It was great. She just a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit there. And it just kept happening. But she stuck to something that she believed in, and she had the right mind process or the right thinking process, and she kept going with it. Now, I'm not saying everybody has that time to wait 4 or 5 months. That's a very rare case where it happens. It takes that long to happen. But if you've been doing years and years and years of damage, and you think you're just going to start some new diet and all of a sudden it's going to change overnight or within the first week or 2 weeks, it doesn't work that way. You know, I just all the years of me doing this and the thousands of people that I've worked with, it's the same story over and over again. People are impatient. They don't want to wait. They don't want to do the right thing. They don't want to have to sit down and measure things out and see how much they're eating. If the no tracking stuff is not working for you, say you're just counting your carbs every day and that's it. If that's not working for you, then maybe you need to actually start writing stuff down. Maybe you need to get a scale out and start measuring stuff. Maybe there's something in there that's in one of those products that's causing you to not lose weight. There could be a number of things. I asked a girl a few years ago when I was working with her if she would get a lab test done that would show any of her deficiencies. And she went ahead and did a 23andMe. And she was losing weight, but there was something wrong, and it was causing her to stall and slow down for long periods of time. She was having an issue metabolizing certain B vitamins. And I think she had to switch to like methylated B vitamins or something like that. She had to see a specialist on it. She really had to hone into her medical condition to figure out exactly what was wrong with her. Sometimes you run into those situations. There are certain diets that do better than others. I personally like a really high protein and a moderate fat level version of carnivore. I feel absolutely freaking phenomenal on that. I'd like to eat 200 grams, 250 grams of protein per day and keep my fat levels at 140, 150, and I feel like a raging bull off of that. I mean, I feel great. But when I eat super, super high levels of fat where I'm up in the 75, 80, 85 percentile, well, 75 is not really high. If I'm 80 and above, I don't feel right. I feel like I got a lot of diarrhea. I feel like I've got too much lubrication going on in the pipes, and it just doesn't work for me. It doesn't make me feel good. I don't sleep right. I like protein. Your body, every part of your body it's science. You cannot argue this. And vegans will tell you that, well, I eat a vegan diet, and just like cows, when cows eat grass and all this other stuff, it converts it into proteins and all this. That's because they have multiple stomachs to do that stuff. You don't have multiple stomachs to do that stuff. That's why a vegan diet wasn't really meant to be the proper human diet. It's not an ancestral appropriate diet. Amino acids and fatty acids get broke down by bile, a short digestive tract with one single stomach like we have, not necessarily super short, but our system is built to break that stuff down. Our body is built off nothing but amino acids and fatty acids. There's no substance in our body that is birthed, growth, or regenerated by sugar and carbs. The only thing that sugar and carbs do for us really is enhance that dopamine sensation, that feel-good sensation of the brain, and it feeds the addiction part because of the dopamine sensation. And not only that, it just taxes hormones that don't need to be taxed. So yes, is a low-carb piece of bread or a fat bomb or a diet soda or something okay from time to time? Absolutely. Have those things. Do what makes you happy. Do what anybody would do in your situation without having to worry about is somebody else going to critique you and point the finger at you. But know that you got to get to a point in your life, in your journey, where you can start having those things. So if you're a person that's brand new and you can't commit to a couple months of being really serious before you start dabbling in other things, maybe even longer, I would really urge you to start pushing out 4 to 6 months before you actually start having treats and reaching outside the box for different things that are keto friendly. Get those real results first. Get those Get the ball moving before you start trying to do any of that other stuff. And if you cannot do it, this is probably not for you. If you can't stand the fact that you have to add sodium to things probably often when you do eat, if you absolutely love bone broth with some salt in it, thank you, Tom. I really appreciate that. Tom with the donation again. Let's see what Psychic Outlaw channel. Here you go, right here. The ketogenic diet is not a weight loss diet. The fat loss is a side effect. It's for people like me with a form of epilepsy. I have temporal. Booze is just converted to sugar, and the first thing your liver gets rid of, even without fasting. That's right. That's correct. I followed someone new after Jimmy Moore was kicked off here for a while, and she made so many keto-fied foods. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Unfortunate you run into stuff like that. I do the keto-fied foods when people ask for them as like a new video, something different, boost up the views on the channel if they're starting to get low or something, and it works. The reason it works is because that's what people want, and it's sad. People don't want the God's to honest truth with what is and what isn't, and there's a number of ways to do this stuff. You can eat junk, dirty keto. You can eat lazy keto. What dirty keto is just basically you're eating anything that you can possibly put in your mouth, no matter if it's clean or not. As long as you're in ketosis, you're okay. A lazy keto is basically you're eating fairly clean foods, and you're kind of keeping your carbs in track, but you're not really counting anything else. Strict keto is you know what your macros are. You know you're eating clean food. You're trying to do the best that you can with the food that you have, and you're just really pushing. So there's different ways to do it. Then it used to be an arguable thing, but I don't think it's even arguable anymore. I pretty much pinpointed this in a live that I was doing. The term keto carnivore, a lot of people think that it was popped up by some random people in a discussion one time. Actually, it was like back 2017, late 2016 is the first time that I actually heard the term keto carnivore used, and it was used by Danny Vega. Danny Vega had written an article. There was like a nutrition article, and if you don't know who Danny Vega is, he's big buff, pretty big buff carnivore dad, entrepreneur, motivational speaker, very, very smart, talks about a lot of fitness stuff with keto. Dude's pretty jacked. And he's the first person that I seen use the term keto carnivore. What that term basically was to him at the time, before it even became a thing by anybody, is he really loved protein and fat, and he felt that he thrived the best off of protein sources and fat. It all comes back to what's essential for the body. But he did love having some nuts sometimes. He did love having some olive oil, some avocado oil, a little bit of a variety of a different fat, a different protein source, coming from nuts and things like that. But he really loved being on the carnivore side of things. So he's the one that I think originally, because this was years ago before this even became a term, that I seen anybody call it keto carnivore. It was him. And that's another way for you to do it. That's another possibility of somebody that thinks they can't do it. That it could be a different venue for you to make it easier. Tom says, unfortunately, most people can't pay the price of clean keto. I like the heavy protein of keto carnivore because it works for me. Me and Tom, we make fairly good money. So Tom does all right for himself, and I do all right for myself. I afford it. I like going and getting meat. I can tell you all the time, I don't buy grass-fed, grass-finished meat all the time. I buy the best conventional kind that I can possibly buy. Sometimes I'll go to a local farmer and get some of my beef and stuff like that. That costs, and everybody can't afford that. But like when I was down in Louisiana, they have different cuts of meat. There's like choice, there's select, and then there's like really low grade, like government grade. Any of that stuff that you feel comfortable with, even if it's the really cheap stuff, is going to be better than going back to a standard American diet. It's going to be better than going to any of these diets that have they're really high in starchy, processed, sugary foods and stuff like that. So even if you go low grade meat and you have to try to afford it that way, rolls of hamburger and dozens of eggs and stuff like that, you can do it. Eggs is one of the most essential foods that you can eat that have all the vitamins and minerals for the body. There's like everything in eggs. They used to say eat one a day because it was high cholesterol. Well, a lot of people don't realize is dietary cholesterol doesn't actually affect your regular cholesterol like one would think. In special circumstances, it may. But if you eat 2,000 milligrams of cholesterol per day, your body produces upwards of 3,000 milligrams of cholesterol per day. Your body's a pretty smart machine via the different cells making cholesterol. And I forget exactly the whole entire process, how cholesterol is made, but there's multiple mechanisms inside the body that make cholesterol. And it's upwards of, I think, 3,000 total or somewhere around there. Anything that you don't eat cholesterol wise, your body is a calculator. And it basically says, oh, you ate 1,700 milligrams of cholesterol today. I know I need 3,000. So we have 1,300 left over. So any given point throughout the day, if it needs cholesterol and it's not there dietary wise, it will actually start creating its own cholesterol. So this whole theory about eating too much cholesterol, not enough cholesterol, I mean, there is a possibility you could eat not enough cholesterol, but your body is always going to try to make that number somewhere around there because it knows that's what it needs. So for years, we've thought too much cholesterol in the diet can cause high LDL and all this other stuff. And to an effect, sure, it can. But is it how they made it out to be for so many years? Absolutely not. It's not at all. And we've seen that over the last 10 years that that's completely been debunked. Now, when you used to go into the doctor's office, it used to say, don't have more than one egg a day. And then 5 years ago, it said, don't have more than 2 eggs a day, too much cholesterol. Well, now you go into the doctor's office and watch on the monitor, and it says, eggs are one of the most nutritionally appropriate foods. You don't really have to limit the amount of eggs that you eat per day. They're really good for you. Well, now that we're going through this COVID-19 pandemic, it's one of the major foods that they recommend you eat health-wise for your immune system because it has so many different types of minerals and stuff in it, and it's really good for nutritionally appropriate meals. I mean, it just has everything. So it's kind of one of those things now where all the bad stuff that you heard about keto, all the bad stuff that you heard about saturated fat. Saturated fat is one of the most healthy fats you can possibly eat. It doesn't have double carbon bonds. When you heat up saturated fat, you have to heat it up to an abnormally high heat in order for you to start turning it rancid. Saturated fat is one of the most stable. It is the most stable fat over heat. It doesn't turn rancid. It doesn't become inflammatory when you eat it. You do that with any other vegetable fat, any kind of seed fat, hydrogenated fat, oil, vegetable oils, canola oils, things like that. They can't handle heat that long. They might say they're high in omega-3s and stuff like that, but if you're cooking with those oils, you're just destroying them. So even if it were true, the fact that canola oil had super high omegas and all this other stuff, and it was the most heart healthy, what the doctor, you guys are cooking with it anyway. You just destroyed that oil anyhow. It's a trash oil as it is, but then you turn around, you cook with it, and you destroy it. So there's a lot to wrap your mind around. If I was a person starting a ketogenic diet, I would say I like ground beef, I like eggs, I like real cheese, I like broccoli, I like cauliflower, I like some spinach salads. Sure, I'll make my own homemade olive oil, vinaigrette, salt and pepper dressing. I could do that. That's easy. It just takes 30 seconds. I can make my own every night. A little of this, a little of that, a little of this, and mix it up. Throw it in your salad. Done. I love bacon. I can put some bacon on top of my salads if I want. I can make a homemade gravy out of some heavy whipping cream and a little bit of real block cheese, shred it together, melt it down. Now you've just made yourself a queso sauce. There's really no hard point to this, and people make it out so hard, and it's not. You want a sweet treat every once in a while? Sure. Nothing wrong with taking 6 ounces of coconut oil, 6 ounces of peanut butter, and melting them and taking a squirt, just a regular, just one squirt of stevia, mixing it up, putting it in the fridge in some little cupcake containers or something. You got yourself a couple treats for a couple nights or something like that. It's not hard. This is not a hard way to do things, but those are things that you don't abuse, those treats that I just told you about. If you want to start this, you can start it, but it is not for everybody. If you are hormonally or I get excited and I can't talk. If your hormones are all out of whack, this can help, but it depends on how they're out of whack. If you're fighting with your husband all the time, if your kids are keeping you stressed out all the time, if you're worried about losing your job, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're in constant stress all the time, it can help you eat healthier and maybe heal some things, but you're probably not going to get the results that you want just for the simple fact that you're so stressed out as it is already. Look how many times doctors have come forward and said, even with this whole COVID-19 pandemic going on, people have said, you're probably doing more damage to yourself by being so stressed out and living in fear all the time than you are actually worrying about the virus and staying clean. You are literally shutting down processes inside the body just because of how stressed you are, because your body's trying to be in the safety mode because of how stressed you are. The aggravation of things that are going on every single day inside your life. Those things alone can stop you from actually making progress in your life. That's why you see so many motivational speakers say, you are your own worst enemy. You are the key to fixing and changing everything in your life. If you're with a man that doesn't love you, he's cheating on you and stuff like that, well, guess what? There's only one thing to do. Ditch his ass, dump him, and be gone. If you're having problems with your kids and all this other stuff, get it right. Fix it. You're the mom. You're the dad. Get it under wrap. If you can't get it under wrap, you're going to have to try to do something. It's your life. Your health is degrading because of it. If you're worried about stuff that's going on at work, well, stop showing up late. Start doing what you're told to do. Be more efficient and more productive. Those are things that you can fix. If there's problems in your life, you're the key holder to that. You can fix those problems. But those things can stop you from being effective on different diet plans and stuff. So is keto for you if you're super stressed out and you've got all these other things in your life falling apart? Probably not. It can help you some, probably give you a little bit of relief, from all the sugary foods and everything else that you're probably eating. But are you going to get immediate results until you get all that stuff under control? Absolutely not. Certain medical conditions, there are actually certain types of cancer that keto is not going to help. I was talking to Maria Emmerich a few years ago, and I was getting her idea on like the whole bulletproof coffee and stuff and everything else. And she was in Hawaii on the beach, and we were doing a live interview. And I said, Maria, I just can't get past this bulletproof coffee stuff and all this junk that people are dumping in their coffees all the time. I can see a little cream, a little butter or something like that. But when they're just dumping tablespoons of this and that and everything else, and she said, Rich, I agree with you. She said, I've been watching your stuff for a little while now. I've been seeing you interact online. I think you're really, really on point with all this stuff. And I like the fact that you're pushing it like you are, because there's no need for that. Well, then we got into some other stuff. I said, Maria, aren't there some forms of cancer, that different types of cancer? I don't remember exactly what they were. There's like one or two forms of cancer that keto will not help. It's just something that it's not going to be as beneficial as people think by using it. Now, most forms of cancer, if you follow a ketogenic diet, are going to be phenomenal for that. A lot of cancer feeds off sugar. A lot of ways that they test to see where cancer sources and stuff are in the body, or where it's festering, is by injecting some kind of glucose into the body with a dye and watching it travel. And then they actually see where the cancer source is sometimes by that. I was talking to a couple of doctors in the movie theater where they were saying that's one of the main ways. We were waiting to get to our movie. We were in line checking. The two of them were talking to each other. They had like a Friday evening movie. It's like some new comic or Marvel comic movie we were going to see. And I started asking him some questions and stuff. And he said, absolutely. We use a glucose dye blend, and we will inject it, and we'll watch it actually travel to the cancer source. So keto does help with so many medical conditions. If you have super, super high autoimmune conditions, is the ketogenic diet the most beneficial for you? Is it for you? It can be, but if you have severe autoimmune conditions, I don't think the keto diet's for you. I think the carnivore diet's for you. If you have absolutely severely high forms of food addictions, if you're the type of person that needs to have sweets and treats and stuff like that in your life, I think keto is kind of a bridge where an addict starts, they get some results, and then they figure out all the different keto faux treats and stuff like that, and then they're right back to where they were before. It's a bad bridge to cross. So I think that type of person, my opinion now, after years of doing this and working with thousands of people, I would recommend that type of person go to a carnivore diet. And why would I do that? The reason I say that is, if I had a Coke addict come to me and say, I'm addicted to Coke, do you think the right response is to say, well, how about you just back off a little bit? Just don't have so much Coke and eventually you'll stop. It's not going to happen. It will not happen. And I know some people don't like me using this analogy. A lot of times they have to be removed from the situation. They have to go to jail. They have to go to prison. They have to go live with a loved one that gives them tough love somewhere in order to get away from that situation. Sometimes when a person is addicted to sugar and carbs that much, they have to step away from it completely. They have to go through the cold sweats and the cold turkey run and stuff like that just to get over that type of stuff. There's a lot to think about when you do this stuff. I've taken people that are on a ketogenic diet and they're getting no results at all after months and months of doing it and saying, look, obviously something's going wrong here. And I see that they're filling up on the fat bombs and the almond flour breads and stuff like that and doing all the cheesecakes and everything else, and say, that's it. That's done. I'm not going to help you anymore. But what I want, I'm done helping you if you keep doing this stuff, because I feel like I'm doing this for free and you're wasting my time. And I hate to be that way, but it's the truth. Sometimes people need tough love, and I don't work with them anymore. I tell them, you move on, go find somebody else to waste their time, or we're going to switch this up a little bit, and we're going to try a little bit of a carnivore diet. And I do that for 2 or 3 weeks with them, and they're right back to getting results again. And we start slowly adding things back in, and they straighten up. Kind of like Cole Robinson with the snake diet. He's an extreme version, but I will get that bad sometimes with people. I'll tell them, either you do what the hell I am asking you to do and you don't waste my time and we get you right and you're going to love me forever when this is done, but you're going to hate me now. And we'll move forward and we'll get through this, or else I'm done. I'm out. You're not going to find somebody else that's going to be this hard on you. You may not like that now, but that's what I do, because that type of person, they don't succeed on keto. It's not for them. So there are a couple different reasons why this diet wouldn't be for somebody. If you're not willing to try to be strong-minded, if you're not willing to stick to a plan, if you're not willing to do a little bit of research, if you are a severe diabetic that you're worried about being in some kind of form of ketoacidosis because you have to be monitored, it's a possibility. If you are a person that doesn't, if you don't like to stay committed for a long period of time, it's probably not going to be for you. They have something called a cyclical ketogenic diet. And that's where people cycle in and out sometimes, where, maybe they'll go like a week on really strict keto, but this is after they've been doing it for a few months and they've got really, really good at figuring things out. They'll go like a day or two where they have like 150 grams of carbs, 150 grams of carbs, and they go right back into strict keto. And then, but those carbs that they're eating is like sweet potatoes, rice, maybe some kind of like melon. And then they go right back into clean keto, where it's all low glycemic stuff, right back into ketotic state, and they'll do that for another week and they'll do it again, or they'll cycle in and out of it. There is a number of things that a person should not come to a ketogenic diet for. If you can't stay up on your sodium, your potassium, if you don't realize that when you first start keto, you're going to be in this flu-like state. They call it the keto flu. Really, what it is you're just dumping potassium and sodium, really sodium. Your body likes to hold on to potassium. When you flush the water out of your system, when you stop eating sugar and carbohydrates, your body doesn't have a reason to retain so much water, so it starts to flush everything. And you have to replenish that. And you really got to heavily put the emphasis on the sodium. And you can get some potassium and stuff in there, but your body tends to hold on to a little bit of potassium more than it does sodium. So I would almost focus more on sodium than I would potassium, but I'd still be putting some potassium back in as well, pickle juice, whatever it may be. And that's why people end up with these heart conditions. That's why I put out a video. What is the video called? I think it's called like Carnivore Diet Deficiencies. So I have one of the top viewed videos, potassium deficiency on carnivore, be careful, rapid heartbeat. I've got more. I've got them under a different name. Maybe it's a warning. I've got a couple videos that are viewed a lot, and that's deficiencies in potassium and sodium. People end up in the hospital, they end up having a irregular heartbeat and stuff like that, and they're not paying attention to the amount of sodium and potassium that they have in their body. That sodium potassium cross is critical for a number of things. When you're in the gym, that pump that you feel, that comes from that sodium potassium cross. When you go to the dentist and they inject that block of Novocaine into your gums, and it stops that cross between sodium and potassium and kind of like some of the nerve function and stuff in general, that stoppage of that pump and the way the nerves and stuff fire and send signals and stuff back and forth is what's stopped by that injection of Novocaine. So when you're deficient on sodium and potassium, your muscles can't function properly, your heart doesn't beat properly, there's arrhythmia and stuff in the body in general. It doesn't just come from the heart and lungs. There's a number of things that can be off. It can mess with some of your hormone function and stuff like that. If you are in a movement phase and you're bending down to pick something up and all of a sudden you cramp up, a lot of people say it's typically a potassium deficiency. It could also be a sodium deficiency. If you're just laying in the bed and all of a sudden, the legs start to cramp and you get that restless leg syndrome or something like that, or you get not necessarily restless leg syndrome, like a Charlie horse or something really, night cramps. A lot of people get up and drink pickle juice. All that sodium and stuff and the trace minerals and stuff that are in there really help those muscles relax. So there's a number of things that happen just based off deficiencies and stuff in general. Magnesium deficiency, potassium deficiency, sodium deficiency. A lot of people don't keep up with these things. So if you're going to start a ketogenic diet and you don't want to keep up with how much you're actually on average taking, you're going to have some problems. This is not for you. So when you eat clean, your body likes to clean itself out often. It just keeps ridding itself of stuff that it possibly doesn't need and then sheds all the extra water away. So people that don't like to keep up on everything, they're the ones that end up, a month later saying that didn't work. They're the ones that end up, 2 years later saying, well, the ketogenic diet was the worst thing ever and it didn't work for me and it made me sick and it put me in the hospital. No, what put you in the hospital was because you were living off fat bombs every single day and you weren't eating real food. That's literally what happened to this girl that was on here. And she said her potassium levels were off. They had to put her on an IV drip and stuff. Well, that's because you weren't doing what you were supposed to do. You did no homework. So you have a general daily recommendation, right? Some people say it's 1,000. Some people say it's 1,000 milligrams of potassium. Some people say it's 3,000. Some people say it's 5,000. This is what I like to tell people. If you can shoot between supplementing and dietary wise, food that you eat, about 3,000 milligrams of potassium per day. Some people can go up to 5 if they're really active and they need that much. And sodium, I like to tell people to have somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 milligrams of sodium. I know some guys that really thrive off 6,000, 7,000 milligrams of sodium, but that's by taking all the sugar out of their diet so they can actually use and get rid of a lot of that stuff they don't need. Now, if you're still eating a lot of carbs and sugar and stuff, I don't necessarily think I would be following these recommendations. But on a ketogenic diet, there are a number of different statistics by different groups. There's keto gains that have their recommendation. There's a doctor that has this recommendation. I tell people I like to see between 3,000 to 5,000 milligrams of sodium, 3,000 to 5,000 milligrams of potassium, about 300 to 400 milligrams of some kind of magnesium. Magnesium glycinate seems to be the most popular one that I'm seeing people take now because the body can use it very efficiently. A lot of people like magnesium citrate from like Calm and stuff like that because when you drink the Calm Magnesium formula, it starts as one type of magnesium, but after it's broke down with the water reaction, I think it ends up as magnesium citrate. It's also another efficiently absorbed one, but I don't think it's as efficient as magnesium glycinate. Um, and then I recommend everybody, and I know this may not be the right thing to say on live, but I wish everybody would take about 5 to 10,000 international units of vitamin D3 every single day, with 200 micrograms of vitamin K2. Some people even take 300 or 400 micrograms of vitamin K2. Some people don't believe that's necessary, but vitamin K and vitamin D are two of the most nutritionally deficient or lab deficient vitamins that 90% of the people in the world show up as deficient in. So those are just my general recommendations on what I've seen and what I've seen other doctors recommend and other keto people recommend. It's a good, safe recommendation for somebody to start. 3 to 5,000 milligrams of both, and then just track through your food every day. You're going to have to download like Carb Manager or one of these food trackers to see exactly what it is. Here, when you're making, so this is what I've always introduced it as. If you're making a movement and you cramp, that's typically a potassium deficiency. If you're in a relaxed position and you cramp, that's typically a magnesium type deficiency. If you're getting headaches or different types of arrhythmia and stuff, that could be more, I push more towards sodium deficiency on that, but potassium could be some of that as well. They all kind of intertwine and mix with each other. That's why it's kind of important for people to have an idea on what they need and what they feel best at and operate off that. This is what I've been seeing more lately. The magnesium glycinate it's more absorbable. It doesn't cause any issues and stuff like that. Some of the citrate stuff, even though it can be absorbed fairly well, it does cause some complications, some digestion issues and stuff, or digestive issues with some people, a little bit of upset stomach. So that's what I didn't see this one up here. Let me post this one too. Good water with electrolytes, whether you do snake juice or not. If you go on Amazon, you can actually look up snake juice electrolytes, and Cole Robinson, it's his product. He already has it mixed up. Nothing to bash Cole. I used to not even be able to talk to the guy or talk about the guy, just because he really got under my skin with a lot of the things that he said. But I actually do like him. And over the last year, I've just thought, you know what, he's doing his thing. So why even say anything bad about him? I don't care for some of the things that he said in the past and how he's treated certain people, including me. But I've moved on past that. I have nothing bad to say about him. He's doing his thing, and he's helping thousands of people all over the world. So big props to Cole. Don't really have much to say to the guy other than just keep doing what you're doing. He's got his own electrolyte supplement that's already in packets, and you could just basically dump it right in. But he even says himself, you don't have to buy that stuff. That's just an easy way for him to get it out there. You don't even have to mix up his formula. Snake juice has actually been around forever. I remember back when I was 17 years old mixing up electrolyte water when we were doing the Atkins diet, when my mom and dad was asking me if I wanted to learn about it. I'm 34 now, so this is how long I've actually known about a ketogenic style diet. Back when I was 17 years old, my mom lost 50 pounds off of the Atkins diet, and my dad lost about 70 pounds off of the Atkins diet, and we were drinking bone broth, stock type stuff back then. So sodium water, potassium water have been around for a long, long, long time. So, I mean, literally what I do is I'll take a little bit of water, a little bit of sodium, which I'll get like a Redmond's real salt or pink Himalayan salt, but I'll actually make sure it's from India, that it's not from California. It's some dyed salt that they're just calling pink salt or Himalayan salt. And I'll actually mix up my own potassium and sodium in like a little shot glass with some water, and I'll just shoot it all at one time, and then I'll actually just sip on some water after that to keep it down. And that's sufficient. Even Cole himself says that's perfectly fine. There's no reason why you shouldn't do something like that. But he's upgraded it. He's put some like baking soda and stuff in his water and everything else that serves other purposes. Is it necessary? No, it's not. Does it help a little bit if you do that? Sure, it does. It'll help clean you out a little bit more. It helps break down certain conditions where you might build stones and stuff like that. So look up the ingredients for snake juice, or just order the little packets offline. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Um, that's pretty much well, the whole half your body weight in ounces of water. That is the most ridiculous recommendation I've ever heard from anybody. Half your body weight in ounces of water is a kind of, if you went to the gym and you were working with a trainer and he ended up getting some bro science degree through some kind of, studying course online or something like that, and read a book and, was able to retain enough stuff to actually pass a test and become a certified personal trainer, which I wanted to see how easy this was. And I actually ordered the test. It cost me $675. I got through like 6 sections of it and passed every single test without even having to study for anything. Knew exactly what the words were, the terminology was. It was like almost 100% on every single test that I took. And then I got to the middle of it, and it was like talking about stuff that they wanted you to do a certain way and was kind of pushing you to do things a certain way, and that you had to operate to a certain standard. It wouldn't be your own standard. And I was like, man, screw this. I'm done with this. A monkey could do this. So I moved on from that, and I didn't finish the test. I just paid them the money basically for nothing, and I never got it. I was posting online as I was taking my test and kind of keeping people updated for a while, and I was like, man, this is stupid. This is so easy. I'm done with this. Um, a lot of the trainer stuff and a lot of people online will tell you drink half your body weight in ounces of water. That is not a good idea. Some smaller people can get away with that, but once you start getting up to 300-400 pounds and you're drinking 150 ounces plus of water per day, you're pushing a lot of electrolytes out of your body. Is not a good idea. I just tell people in general, drink to your satiety. Make sure you're drinking water. It's good to drink water. I'll probably drink, anywhere between 4 to 7 bottles of water a day, and that comes out to, let's see, 17, 34, 68. So, I might be getting 100, 120, 140 ounces of water a day. That's just because that's what I like. But most people are not going to get away with that. Most people, they have 70, 80 ounces, they have 60 to 80 ounces of water a day. The old recommendation was 8 glasses of water per day, which that was 8 ounce glasses of water per day, 64 ounces of water. Anywhere between like 60 and 120 ounces is a pretty good range to be in general. That's just kind of like normal. When people start trying to achieve gallons, there's no reason for that unless you're some kind of athlete that's running constantly throughout the day. Unless you're somebody that's sweating you're in a job where you have to replenish your electrolytes and drink water. So once you start getting really super high levels of drinking water, you need to be replenishing electrolytes as you're doing it. If you ever achieve a point where you're looking at your urine when you're taking a piss and it looks clear, you're dehydrated. Remember back in school, the coach used to say, drink more water. It needs to be clear. Well, that's probably one of the most ridiculous recommendations ever in the military. They force hydrate you. It was a thing that they did. It was called forced hydration while you're going through boot camp and basic training and stuff like that. And people would still pass out. The reason they were doing that is because they thought that literally drinking water would keep people hydrated, but they never focused on replacing their electrolytes. So even though they were force hydrating people out in the heat and stuff when we were doing all the training, we would still have people fall out because they weren't doing it correctly. They were drinking so much water that they were dehydrating themselves. It's called, forced hydration, and that's what they would do when you went through boot camp and basic training. So, there are some reasons why the keto diet is not for everyone. There are some reasons why, it's one of those things where you have to be conscious of what type of effort you're willing to put into it. Are you willing to give it all you got? Are you willing to actually learn and do some research and stop asking every single person to answer everything for you so it sticks into your head? Do you have a medical condition that you think that would be exasperated by, all the fat and stuff like that? So um, if you have a condition where your gallbladder is gone, some people actually produce enough bile from their liver alone to where they don't have to have a gallbladder and they're completely fine. There are some people that don't have a gallbladder. They can't eat a lot of fat, and they have to take digestive enzymes or oxbile salts to help break down the extra fat through their dietary needs, and they're completely fine after that. But they don't know that in the beginning because they don't do the research, and they think, well, this is not for me. This is causing me all kinds of digestion problems and everything else. Well, because you didn't do your research. You can actually take digestive enzymes or oxbile salts and help break down that fat so you can actually metabolize them properly because you're not producing enough. So, is there anything else that we left off before we get off out here? I mean, I've been on for an hour and 10 minutes, and I didn't think I'd go this long. And can you think of anything else? Any reason? Anybody can do keto. Can you think of any reason while we're here why somebody would have a hard time doing it, or why it's not for them? So we covered some really good things here. Actually, there was a lot of information covered in this hour, and I'm glad I had everybody here to help me think of things. Um, I think keto can be for everyone, but there are certain reasons why it's not for everyone. And those I have pretty much explained here um, in just kind of an hour and 15 minutes of talking, which that may be a little too long because nobody watches the videos that long. Well, I think that's it. I think that's it for the evening. I think that was a decent talk. I think I brought up some good points here, and if you would like for me to push you any information or direction at all, this is, I'll show you my group here. I mean, I'm not going to show you somebody else's. I'll show you what I got. Well, I didn't screen share. I went to the wrong thing, so I should have went to screen share, and I didn't do that. Almost. Facebook, here, share screen. So this is my group here. This is the one we talk on. I post some of my videos and stuff in here. I'm the admin of this group. It's Carnivore Keto Nation Official. If anybody's interested in joining, we got a lot of positive stuff here. Stephanie's one of the ones that have been the most successful in the group lately. She started talking to me whenever she thought something was wrong with her fasting blood glucose. And this is kind of just a long story, really quick. She reached out to me and she said, hey, this is what's going on. My glucose has been kind of out of control. I got some labs done, but I haven't got the results back. And I asked her, can I monitor your blood sugar over the next couple of days? And we kind of went through her blood sugar, and I think it was at like 160, 170. I think she said it got up to like 212 or 202 or something at one time. And I said, well, wait a second. Something's not right here. And we ended up getting to a point where I actually recommended she try the carnivore diet. And you could just see her numbers slowly come down. She went from like 160 down to 140 fasting blood glucose, down to like 110. Then she was at like 102, and she was even down in the 90s one time. And I was like, thank you, Lord, for this. This is what I wanted. I was just in her corner praying the whole entire time. And she said, so 3 weeks or so I have been doing keto, while I'm going to go back to carnivore because I'm finding adding the veggies cause inflammation and I'm starting to not feel good again and starting to have pain again. I think carnivore is my place to be, and occasional keto, but not every day uh, keto. My body doesn't do well by doing the vegetables and stuff every day. I don't want to test which veggies are causing the problem. It's easier with dark greens I eat or the avocado because those are what I eat for veggies most days. Anyway, short of the story is, vegetables have anti-nutrients, phytates, phytoestrogens, salicylates, oxalates. They have things in there that are not necessarily good for the body. And a lot of those things are defense mechanisms that are released in vegetables because just like an animal is, afraid to be harvested if it knows it's going to be slaughtered, so is a vegetable. Vegetables have chemical signals that happen inside them. I took a horticulture class down in Louisiana for 6 months and I learned a lot about it. And they actually can send signaling throughout the vegetable and stuff like that because it knows it's going to be harvested. It's a defense mechanism to being harvested. Do they affect everybody? Absolutely not. Do they affect a good majority of people and they don't know it? Absolutely. Avocados are one of the highest fruits, vegetables in histamine. It's one of the biggest things around allergy season that people eat avocado and they don't understand why their allergies are acting so bad during allergy season. And that's one of the reasons why, is because they're eating high histamine foods. So even healthy foods can actually have bad substances in them that actually make things worse. Um, here's This has been viewed, I think, millions of times already, or over 1 million times. This is a keto cycle diet, 28-day keto diet plan. And when it pops up, they say uneducated people do this, educated people do this. Well, I had to post a message to them. I wanted to explain to them, obviously, they're just another clickbait type title because what they're saying is absolutely not true. It's the furthest thing from the truth. Look at this here. It looks like a vegan, some kind of vegan keto diet. It's not even a regular keto diet. There's nothing keto about that. Macro-wise, balanced protein to fat ratios. So I called them out on it. And it's absolutely not true. So I found these little True Lemon sprinkles that you dump in your water and stuff. You give yourself some water flavor. It does have like a little bit of cane sugar to it, but it's very, very small. It's like 1 gram or less. And I thought people that want a little bit of extra flavor, this could benefit them if they needed something in there from time to time. It's stevia sweetened, but there is a little tiny bit of cane sugar in there. So it's not for everybody. Like here, I keep people updated on some of the stuff I find while I'm out. There are keto ice creams that can be treats sometimes. It's not something that you have all the time. This brand is called Keto, but there's also another brand called Rebel, and I talk about that in this video, and I share it with the group so they can see exactly what's going on. People that I'm not super strict and an asshole with everybody. I like to share things that all people can make choices on. Every once in a while, people like to have a drink. They like to have a margarita. I like to have a margarita from time to time, but there's a time and place for that. And when I was at Woodman's grocery store, I found these sugar-free margarita mix, mojito mix, sweet and sour mix, and these can absolutely be done. So I'm not super strict all the time whenever I teach these things or talk about these things, but I also have to cover the stuff so people need to know where I'm coming from. This is the Aldi's ice cream right here. This is their new brand. This is one of the gentlemen in the group. He runs his own YouTube channel. He did an interview with a 4-year ex-vegan. She went keto, and you could see the difference in her skin. His channel, if you want to check out his channel, it is Conscious Calisthenics or Calisthenics right here. So if you want to check out his channel, there it is. Click off of that. We got some new members in the group that are sharing some different stuff. Like here are the different parts of This is what you can get when you go ask for a quarter cow, half a pig, quarter pig. So it's another new member in the group. She likes to share her food. My favorite organic hand-reared belly pork ribs. Always use your local butcher. Divine. And that's something that she made for dinner, and she loves it. This is just stuff we talk about. When we get into some serious stuff sometimes, like I recently tried making heart in the air fryer. I cut it into thick slices like a steak and put ghee butter on it so it would fry. It came out great, nice and pink inside. It was so fun to experiment with. This is another person with a high histamine issue, so she has to eat things that are very tailored to her diet. She's figured out through brainstorming with us, lots of messages, private messages, just tons of time and hours talking back and forth as friends on what she needs to do to figure out what things she can do and eat to really keep her focus on nutrition appropriate for her lifestyle. So organs don't bother her, lamb doesn't bother her. There are a lot of other things that have higher levels of histamine that do bother her, cause her skin to break out, maybe make her sleep a little bit irregular, and we figured that out. Here's this lady's first carnivore meal: beef liver, loved it, so good. Liver and eggs. Here's somebody else showing something easy. You get some hot dogs and wrap some bacon around it. This can be a keto meal. There's nothing wrong with it. People sharing tips on, I recently found 50% off weekly sale on grass-fed strips and ribeyes at Safeway. Wonderful stuff. This kind of stuff we share in the group. This gentleman here, he's a new member looking for a good magnesium supplement, looking for recommendations. And then, we kind of just talk about things. And here it was. This guy says Calm powder found on Amazon. I replied a couple times. The powder form of Natural Vitality Calm is comprised of magnesium carbonate and citric acid. Adding water triggers a chemical reaction, binding the two together to create magnesium citrate. Calm has been super popular. Sarah said, I get organic edible magnesium salts in a 5-pound bag from Amazon, and I add it to water along with real salt, potassium salt, and that's my electrolytes. I love it. So there are plenty of people here that, this is me getting into my more serious side of the group. The graham cracker was invented to stop you from masturbating. And the whole idea behind this post was the fact that this idea that vegetables and fruits are the things that are most nutritional to the body is not actually true. If you look back in history, you can actually see that back in the mid 1800s, like here, meat bad, veggies good nonsense. These are idiots on the news this afternoon. Meat worsens diabetes. No, it does not. Meat doesn't elicit an insulin response, super minimal if it does. Meat doesn't tax sugar levels. Carbs and grains do this. Your body is built of lipids and proteins, and to abstain from eating these in the most bioavailable form, meat, is ludicrous. Cholesterol is what your cells and brain and hormones need. It is essential for developing and development as well as growth. Your brain needs it and your body needs it. Fat and protein from animals had hate brought against it by the faulty bought and paid for science from Ansel Keys and big companies like Procter & Gamble that made sure the animal nutrition was frowned upon. Because if you think back in the mid 1900s to like semi-early, more mid like 1930s, 40s, when Procter & Gamble really started to become big, that's when they started making a lot of things like processed foods and stuff like that, where they never had those types of things on the market, and they were not meat. So they paid companies to talk bad about meat and fat and protein, and that's fact. Fat and proteins from animals had hate brought against them by faulty bought and paid for science from Ansel Keys and big companies like Procter & Gamble, and made sure the animal nutrition was frowned upon. Let's now go all the way back to Ellen G. White and Robert Kellogg with the Seventh-day Adventist creation group mid-1800s, who said boys played with their peckers so much that meat was tainting them and made their hormones go wacky. Yes, this is what was actually said back then. It's dialogued, it's recorded. Dum Dum meat makes hormones what they are supposed to be, available and abundant and healthy. Instead, Kellogg creates a shit grain-based cereal concentration camp food that you shove down your throats of your children to this day, filled with chemical additives and all kinds of junks, but you don't think about that. You know, is there a reason why you turn a cereal box around and you look at it and it says trisodium phosphate? Have you ever pulled up a container of paint thinner to see what's actually in that trisodium phosphate? They just lower the dosage so it's okay for food grade stuff. These are things that people don't talk about. You don't think about that. Why is your kid sterile at 20 years old, or your daughter can't conceive and never had a fighting chance due to the garbage that you feed them growing up? Cakes and chips and sugar and shit grains, country crock, and I can't believe it's fake ass butter. Blame it on the meat idiots. Idiots like this in Chicago that happen to be on the news this afternoon disgust me, and it's sad some of them are BS doctors taking people's money for mediocre and bottom of the barrel health advice. Protein, fat, sodium, potassium are abundant in meat and are essential for the body and heart. This thinking, as shown in the pic, is why people stay sick. Ideology doesn't equal what's best for people. Protein and fat create satiety and building blocks for the entire body. It's funny because fruits and vegetables have all kinds of bad things people never talk about, like phytates, salicylates, oxalates, fructose, natural or not, it's still not good. So many anti-nutrients in this stuff that mess up your digestive tract and hormones and wreak havoc on your brain. Nobody ever talks about this stuff. So, this is kind of what I get into. I can be nice and tailor to the crowd where people needs a little bit of junk foods thrown their way, what's keto friendly and stuff like that. But then I snap right back into it, and I'm back into the serious stuff, and I'm grinding it out, really trying to teach people what I know, or maybe bring up some topics that can refresh people's memories and really get them back on track with what seems silly, So anyhow, that's where I'm at with this. Psychic Outlaw, so she thinks people should start with intermittent fasting, move to low carb, try keto, but if really metabolically challenged, move quickly to carnivore if necessary. And this is very true. If you start with intermittent fasting, but you just keep a standard American diet, a lot of people find that they actually start to clear up some conditions and they start to lose weight. They actually don't need to go low carb or keto or anything. And if you move to low carb, that could even enhance that even more. But then if you do low carb intermittent fasting, now you're on to the next step. If that doesn't work for you, you can go full-blown keto. But if you really metabolically have issues, carnivores, hand over fist. It's kind of like the way to go when it comes to severe conditions. And most of the low-carb keto community is really starting to see that. So that's why you don't really hear any keto people talking bad about carnivore anymore like they were in the beginning, because it works. It's like the ultimate elimination diet for medical conditions. I used to watch Danny when he went carn, but then he took 2 months off. Yeah. I don't really get into a lot of other YouTube channels too much because I like to focus on my own stuff. I used to get involved with other channels and things kind of started getting hectic and out of control. People started talking behind each other's back and backstabbing and stuff like that. And I was kind of like, I'm done with all this nonsense. I do go on Bart's channel because Bart is he's just a stand-up guy. What he says, and what he says he means, and that's just that. You don't have to worry about him talking behind your back or anything like that. He talks, and that's just how he is. And if you don't like it, it's too bad. So I will go do long 1 hour, 2 hour sessions on his channel with him because I like the guy. I've been buddies with him since right after he came on the internet, and I was running a big giant group with 30,000 people in it, and he's been a real good dude. He's a good friend, and I like him. So if you guys don't know Bart K, Nutritional Science Watchdog, go check him out. Bart K, BARTKAY. And if you are for the faint of heart and you don't like being told what's what, and you don't like being mansplained, as some of the more feelings on the sleeve type of people wear it, Bart may not be the person for you to watch. But if you like some real honesty and from a scientist, yes, an actual scientist, go check out his channel. That's it, guys. That's all I got for right now. If you want to check out the channel, again, it's Keto Carnivore Nation Official. And if I I don't even know if I can grab the link from here and share it. Try to see if I can post it in the comments if I can get to it. I don't even know how to do that from actually like Facebook. Trying to figure out how to do it, but I can't figure it out. I don't know how to do it from the computer. I don't know why I don't know how to do it from the computer. Oh, wait, here. Right over here. They've changed stuff around. They moved it all around on me. I can't. I thought this is where you're doing. Anyway, I'll link it underneath the video in the comment section when we're done here. So that's it. I'm done. So thank you guys for watching as long as you have. I appreciate you all. I love you all as always. I really do. I really care about everybody that's here to the entirety of anything you guys need. Let me know. And I'm going to do a giveaway next week. Actually, this weekend. This weekend, I'm going to do a giveaway. I'm going to do a giveaway to the people that have been supporting my channel the most, commenting the most, and being here the most. It's not a way for me to actually entice people to do that. I want to do that for people that actually care, that are here, that even though, you know, outside my quirkiness and weird getting off topic and coming back on topic, they're still here to support the channel no matter what. So I'm actually going to give away 2 $50 gift cards this weekend to people that you'll either be able to get it through the mail, or it can be straight through Messenger from me directly to you on Facebook. It just instant sends it, doesn't take out any fees or anything like that. Or you can get it to your PayPal, whatever you want. But anyway, this weekend I'm giving out 2 $50 gift cards for people that have been supporting my channel the most. So thank you guys. I appreciate you. I love you all. I will see you back here again soon. We'll talk later. Be blessed.